Now I think it's fine so far. Okay. So here, as I was mentioning, this b dot false is basically s dot next. Since we have only one s, so that's why there's basically this s dot next here. Now, after b dot false, we have s1 dot next. Now, what should be s1 dot next? If we consider the flow of while, we will have this, let's say, begin. This is the begin part, like in the block graph. We have this begin part, where begin is basically the starting of this while loop. Then we have this b. From that b, we can have a true or a false. Now, true should represent, we should get inside this, get inside this true state, a true label. So inside this true label, we will be getting inside. That is basically s dot code. And in case of false, we need to go whatever comes after the s dot code, which is basically s dot next. So s dot next. Now also, since this is what? S1. Since this is S1, that means what? From here, in case we have to, like this is s dot next. Now, since we have S1 here given, we simply write here S1 dot next. Now, why is it so? Remember, this is what? This is basically a while loop. So in order to have this loop, we have to go to, or simply S1 dot next will be, S1 dot next will be a jump statement. So let me clear this up again. What am I trying to mention here? Once we started, B can have either true value or the false value. In case of true, it will go to s dot code. In case of false, it will go to the false or simply the s dot next part, which is outside the while loop. Now, in case of true, I get inside s dot code. However, I should also check again this B, isn't it? For like to understand or to know whether, or am I supposed to repeat myself or not? Or am I supposed to loop inside or not? In that case, what should it be? This s dot code will have some s dot next here. Sorry, s1 dot next, basically s1 dot next here. Since s dot next is basically this portion, there should be some s1 dot next now. Now s1 dot next should represent begin. That means whenever I get inside this block, the next point it should point to, or the next iteration or the next statement, next instruction, it should point to is basically this begin. So that I again go to this begin and can check this B. And if this BCB is false, simply I go to s dot next, which is outside this loop. But before that, before checking B, I should not go to this one outside of this loop. So in order to actually check whether this B is true or false, after executing s dot code, I should go to s1 dot next rather than s. So what I'm understanding from here, there is this two portion. One is s dot next, another is s1 dot next. In many cases, s1 dot next and s dot next are the same thing. However, s1 dot next and s dot next could be different. In case of while, we're checking what? We're knowing that s1 dot next and s dot next are different. Okay, now when we will be solving a question, at that time this will be much more easier to understand, or much more easier to grab actually. So let's eliminate this portion now. To deal with this. Oh my God. Okay, so as I was mentioning, we have now different things. Wait. Okay, now B dot first is basically S dot next, and S1 dot next is basically pointing to what? Begin. This is only for while loop. Okay. Finally, we have now S dot code. Now, S dot code will be basically appending a label at the very beginning. So the label is basically what? The first label is begin. With that, we will appending B dot code. To that, we will be appending the true label or the B dot true label. So label B dot true. Then we will have the S1 dot code, and to that we will append the free address code for a go to statement, which is basically where should we go now? We should go to the very beginning, so which is begin. That's why this begin free address code will be generated. Lastly, we will have S producing S1 and S2. So S can generate S1 and S2. That means more statements. So how does it look like? So for example, in case of, let's say, if B, then S1, this S1 can be if B, S1, S2, and this S could be final, could be more propagated to further S1, S2. So after some like certain number of iteration, we can have S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, like many more. And what does this S points to? If you see, and the like one of the first instruction or production rule, we have what? S producing a sign. So simply there will be some assignment operation. For example, ID equals to E or ID equals to L, or basically like that sort of instruction. It's like expressions. Okay, so that sort of statements basically. Now, if we come a bit, get back to this portion. So S producing S1, S2. In such cases, we will have S1 dot next equals to a new label. S2 dot next will be basically S dot next, the actual one. And finally, we will have S dot code. And to that, we will append S1 dot code. To that, we will append the label S1 dot next. And finally, we will append to that S2 dot code. Okay, now let's have an example to better understand how things are working. So for example, let's say we have this statement. So if let's say A greater than B, or B greater than C, in such case, we will have, let's say, ID, sorry, not ID. We will have A equals to B and B equals to, let's say, A plus C. That's the easiest one I can think of. Now, which of this production rule does it satisfy? It satisfies the only if condition, which is basically this one, isn't it? If that's the case, let's try to solve this, how things should work. So we will have initially P, let's try to emulate the graph here. So P will generate S. So our cursor will be here. In order to see P completely, we need to see S completely. So in order to see S completely, S is a non-terminal, we have to see the production rule of S. So S will have initially what? If it will have L parent, it will have a B, it will have R parent, and it will have what? The S1. Now see from here, if is a terminal itself, so from the cursor will move from here to here. The cursor will be moved here. Again, there is this L parent, so the cursor will be moved from there to here. We will shift the cursor. Now, in order to see B, we have to simplify, or we have to do the expression wherever B will be. We have to find that at first. Now, for B, in our previous lectures, we have seen how the B actually works. Just a minute, let me admit one of the students. Okay, so what I was mentioning that in our previous lectures, in one of the previous lectures, we have seen how to where did it go? The like the Boolean expression basically. So like Boolean expressions are what? Boolean expressions are operation. So for example, in such case, we have seen that the production rule of B is basically B can have B ampersand ampersand B, or B OR with B, or this could be basically true, or this could be basically false, isn't it? We have seen in one of the lectures, and this is also given in the book. So in such cases, we do what? B is basically, as I mentioned, what? B is basically normal expressions. Normal expressions are represented as what? E, isn't it? We have done, or we have solved the expressions for, or the production rule for E. So what was that? E producing, or yeah, simply S producing E. So starting producing E, E produces E plus E, so E1 plus E2, or we have seen minus E, or we have seen IEs, isn't it? Now, in such cases, we had this operation, which is addition operation or subtraction operation. However, what do we have here? We have a relational operation here. So we are checking relationally whether they're true or false or not. So in such case, that means we will be able to generate the tree address code easily. So how do we generate the tree address code for this one? The left one, we have what? Tree address code will be basically whatever we get, place it in T naught, the operation of between A greater than B. So the result will be placed in T naught. So the result will be basically a Boolean result. Now, in case this T naught is a true statement, then something will happen. If not, then something else will happen. Now, in the examples, just a second, let me try to find out the grammar for that. Just a second, hold on. That is control flow. Just a second, just hold on a bit. Like I'm trying to get the grammar from the book, like the grammar for uh, the Boolean expression and the equivalent tree address code for that. So how do we generate that? Okay, this in this case, this B will be like, since this is a multi-Boolean expression, the results will be something of this format. That means the first one is T naught equals to A greater than B. And we have seen in the from the last lecture, how do we draw this? That if, like, since this is a or, that means any one of them, if this is a one, then it's a true. Then the whole thing is a true. So if T naught, if T naught is true, then what do we do? Go to so basically not T not true, rather T, if it is false, then go to somewhere. Then go to, let's say, L1. Else go to the next line. And since this is true, we can perform whatever is here. So that will be, let's say this is L2. So if this is L2, we will perform, wait, rather not false. Let's give it true. If it is true, then go to L1. Else, if it is false, then we need to check the right side, which is T1 equals to B greater than C. If T1 is true, true, then go to L1. So we are appearing here. Let's say this is L1, somewhere below. If L1 is below, then this will be basically our L2. So in case, if it is false, let's say if this is L2, not L2, L2 is here. So L1, like in case of it is a true, then we simply perform L1. If like the left portion is true, then we perform the L1. If left portion is false, however, the right portion is true, we perform L1 again, because like either of them, if they are true, then I need to perform L1. So L1 is the true statement, or the statement inside the if statement, or the statements inside this if condition. So this is basically the region for L1, and whatever is outside, those are basically for L2. Hence, if either of them are true, we need to perform L1. That's what I was trying to say. If T naught is true, then go to L1. If false, then again go to the next line and check if B is greater than C or not. If it is true, then again go to L1. Now, since L1 is directly below this line, then I don't need to check whether it is true or not. This is the thing I also showed in the last lecture in the class. So if T1 is basically true, I do not need to, like, I really don't need to jump to this L1, since L1 is directly below me. So this is the wastage of resources. Hence, what should I check basically is if it is false or not. So if T1 is false rather than being true, so let me write here. So if T1 is basically false, so that's the much more valid statement, I would say. So if T1 is false, then go to L2 basically. Otherwise, run whatever is below me. Now this makes much more sense. So now see, if I draw it in over here, so I'm entering, this is the start, and I have, let's say, a true and a false. However, this is for, let's say, B1. Now, in case B1 is true, then execute whatever is L1. So this is, let's say, B1 dot true. However, if B1 dot is false, then whatever is below, execute that. So this is B1 dot false. So if B1 dot false, in that case, check for B2. If B2 is true, again, B2, B1, B2 dot true is basically B1 dot true, which is L1. And if it is false, then go to L2, which is B2 dot false. So this is no longer B1 dot false. Why? Because in case B1 dot false, we have received, we simply check if the right portion is true or not. Because directly seeing the left portion is false, we cannot identify whether we are correct or not. Okay, so that's basically what I was trying to say. Now, we have the 3-address code for this expression. Just a second, let me erase this off. Okay, so this is basically the 3-address code. Let's say the 3-address code for the expression inside. So once the expression has been performed, this is basically L1, and this is for L2. Now, what is the final B? So let's say in case we have simple B, so let's give a simple B here. Simple B expression, which is A greater than B. What do we do? So we have something of this format, let's say. We have A greater than B. So this is the B we have. Second. Yes. So this is the B we have. So for that B, we will go at first here. So the B will simply generate what? The B will generate the code for B. Now the code for B is, in this case, why did I even erase that? So the code for B we have found was basically what? T naught equals to A greater than B. This was the code for B, isn't it? For this portion, the result for B is basically given in this format. So this is the 3-address code for B in the simplest format, like for this simple expression. Let's not deal with the complex expression now. Let's deal with the simple expression. So this is the expression what we have for B. So B has been found so far. This is the 3-address code we have generated for B. This was found from the grammar rule for B, which we have like done in some previous classes, previous lectures. Now, once B, we have seen B. Where is the cursor? The cursor moves from there to like here to there, or shifts to the right. Again, we have this right parenthesis. So the cursor moves from left to right. And finally, in order to see S, we have to see the production rule for S. Now, how many statements, which is how many assignment statements do we have? This is one such, and this is the second one. So we have two such statements. That means this S1 will be broken down or will derive basically this production rule, which is S1 producing S1 and S2. So let's say S1 prime and S2 prime. That's, yeah. Now, in such case, the cursor is basically to the left here, and S1 prime is basically what? This is an assignment operation. So for this assignment operation, what is the 3-address code we should get? We should be getting the 3-address code for this S as, let's say, we will be getting that using the assign.code, isn't it? Now, assign.code, we have to like get it from somewhere. We'll be receiving it from the other end, which is basically solving the production rules for E producing, let's say, IDE. So E producing which we did in our like previous, like in the lecture before the last one. So IDE, and this E will be producing what? This E will be basically ID equals to ID. So once we have seen ID equals to ID, we will generate some 3 address code. That 3 address code will be basically this one. Let's say that will be stored in this assign, and this assign.code will have the 3 address code. So in this case, let's say this is the 3 address code for this one is basically we are assigning here A equals to B. So this will be basically A equals to B, since we don't have any like we do not require any the third temporary variable. However, we can place a temporary variable here. Let's do it in that way. So let's say in this case, the temporary variable, since we have used already T naught here, so we will have now T1 here. So T1 will be basically having the value of B, and that value of T1 will be placed to A. So T1 will be having the value of A. This is the first assignment. So now when we have this S producing assign, just a second. So when we'll be having this S dot S equals to assign, we will simply passing the value of assign.code, which is this one, to S dot code. So S dot code now will have this value. So simply this will be pointed to this portion. Similarly, we now have the cursor to the right. We have seen already this S1. Now, in order to see this S2, we again have to have this production rule, which is assign, is producing assign, because of this one. Now that assign will have this operation A plus C. Now A plus C will generate a 3 address code in which manner? So assign.code will be basically, if we consider here, at first we have this operation A plus C. So we have T2 now equals to A plus C, and that value will be placed where? Into B. So B equals to now T2. So this is the assign.code. Again, this S2.code now will point to this 3 address code we just generated because of this production rule, which is S producing assign equals to S.code equals to assign.code. So far, we're done. Now, for this portion, which is S producing S1, S2, so we have seen up until this S2. So S1 has been seen and S2 also has been seen. The cursor is now to the very right. So now we can say that we have seen this S1 completely. Once we have seen this S1 completely, which is this one, so the cursor is now here, we have for this S1 a dot next attribute, and dot next attribute will have a new level. So the new level, let's say, mark it as, let's say, L1, since we did not have any what? We did not have any previous level so far. So this is the first level. So mark it as L1 or L0. In this case, let's mark it as L0. This is the first level. Then we have S2.next as S.next. So S2 is which one? If you focus here, S2 is basically this rightmost portion. So this S2.next will be S.next, which is this S.next. So S.next points to where? S.next, so far I haven't found anything, but whatever. Sorry, wait a minute. S1.next is the new level, not S.next. So I made a mistake here. So this shouldn't have the L0 level. Rather, the level should be on one of the child, which is basically this one. So this one will have S.next, and this will have L0. So this is the L0 now. And the child here, this one, will have a dot next, which is S2.next. That will simply point to its parents dot next. So it will have a dot next here. So this will point to this dot next. So what this refers? This refers if we have this code. So if this enter of the portion is S, and there we have S1 and S2. So what is after S dot next is basically after S2, isn't it? Hence, this is also S1, S dot next is basically S2 dot next. That's what they're saying in this production rule. S2.next is basically S.next. If so far you are convinced how it works, now for the last one, which is we will generate the 3 address code. So for this final one, we will have a code attribute. Wait, we will now have a code attribute. For this S, there will be dot code here, and that code will simply hold what values. Let's see. We have S1.code. Now S1.code is basically what? This is the S1.code, isn't it? This is the S1.code. So let's place here. So S.code will basically hold at first. Let's draw a box here. This will be the 3 address code. So at first it will have S.code. So S.code is basically T1 equals to B in this case, and A equals to, let's say, T1 so far. Then with that, we append this label, which is S1.next. S1.next is basically what? This one. So we have, what did we have? We have, let's say in this case, L0 was the label. So we append L0 here. This is as the label. And then with that, we append S2.code. So this L0 will have now what? T2 equals to A plus C, and B will have T2. That's what it is saying. So far, this S.code will hold this 3 address code. So far, S.code is basically our S1.code and S2.code, along with a new label. Okay. Now, if that's fine so far, we have seen this S dot, like this S. That means we have seen this complete production rule. So that gives us the cursor moves from here to the very right. So in case of S producing if B S1, we perform this production rule. So what is the production rule here? The first one is B.true gives or gets a new level. So we will have here, let's mark it just a second. So let's remove these portions. So we have if here. L parent, R parent, and S. This B will have a dot next, sorry, dot true, not next, dot true. That will be new level. Now, what was the previous level we used? L0. So in this case, this will be L1. Then B will have a false attribute, which will hold again. No, sorry, not a new level. Rather, this will hold S1.next, which is S.next. So this will point to this statement, which is S1.next, which is basically S.next. So far, S1.next and S2.next are provided here. We don't know what is S1.next, S2.next so far. So let's go along. Then we have what? We have S.code. S.code is basically B.code. Now, B.code is what? If you remember, B.code is basically this one, T0 equals to A greater than B. But where do we append this? See one thing. For S.code, we are appending at the very beginning, isn't it? We're not appending at the very end. Rather, we are appending to the very beginning. That means whatever we have here, we will be appending that even before that. So we go here. For B.code, let's draw the 3 address code for B.code, which is we have now T0 equals to A greater than B. This is the 3 address code. The first one, which is this one, B.code appended at the very beginning. Then we have what? Label B.true. Label B.true is basically what? L1. So now we have L1, and L1 is basically, well, let's, for simplicity, place a colon beside to mention that this is the level. So L1, and with that, we have what? S1.code. So S1.code is basically what? This is the S1.code. So T1 equals to B, A equals to T1, Then we have L naught here. Place colons to distinguish them. T2 equals to A plus C. And finally, we have B equals to P2. So what do we have here? We have the Boolean expression here. Then we have label here. And finally, we have the other levels, I mean, the other portion of the code here. Okay, so if that's the scenario, just a second, let me see if I'm going correct or not. Have I missed any go-tos? No, I haven't missed any go-tos now, like so far. Okay, now this is the code for s.code. So this s.code will have this this s will have a code attribute, and that will point to simply this tree address code. Once we have seen this, what to do next? We will have s.next as the new level. For here, we have seen so far this much. That means we will have this s.next, which is this s will have this next attribute that will point to some new level, which is in this case, it should be L2. L2. And p.code is basically, p will have a code attribute now. P.code shows or states that, just a second. Let's draw it here. So p.code will have s.code at the very beginning. So s.code points to this, what we have. So this is the portion s.code have. And with that, after that, we append what? We append label s.next. S.next is basically L2. To that, we append L2. So this is what it looks like. So let's see if it goes with the flow or not. We have at first this if condition. It says if A is greater than B, which is placed in T naught, then do these operations. I think they have missed a statement here, which is, in this case, for example, here we have, so basically, if A is not greater than B, so that means over here, if this is false, if T naught is, let's say, false, then go to L2. This should be the line placed here. So this is this is the tree address code that has been missed here. So that will actually solve the entire part. Why? See here, we have the condition checked here. In case this is false, we don't need to get inside this if condition. We will simply go to where? We will simply jump to L2. And in case this is true, we do not do anything. We rather go line by line to this instruction, to this instruction, and we do the assignment operation one after another. And finally, we execute or we go out of this L1 or level 1. Okay, so that is the go-to statement we were required to actually introduce here. That's for basically the if one. Let's try for the while one. As I mentioned, we will see why we need to do a while for like how to implement the while here. So we will be requiring that here. The implementation of while. So let's erase this at first. So let's say we have a while condition or a while loop here. So while, let's say, C less than 10, go inside and place A, or basically, let's say, C equals to C plus 1 while loop out. Like this is the as simple as I can have. I'm trying to think in that way. The production rule is basically this one, which is S producing while B is 1. So let's try to draw the graph. So P producing S, and in order to see P, we have to see S, and in order to see S, we have to see while L parent, B R parent, and finally S1. Now this while is a terminal itself, so we have seen the cursor moves from left to right. Again, it shifts from here to there. Now, in order to see B, we have to actually see the production rule of B, which we can see from the previous expressions. In this case, it says whether C is less than 10 or not. So B will have this code, which is basically B dot code will be basically T naught equals to C less than 10. Okay. If that's the case, now that's the B dot force. Again, we have seen B. Now the cursor moves from here to the right of the R parent. And finally, you have to see S. S produces S sign because there's only one S, one statement. This is the statement only. Hence, we will simply say this is the assign. The assignment operation in this case, what it should be. We're doing some addition, isn't it? Which is T1 equals to, let's say, C plus 1. And again, placing this value to C equals to T1. So this is now what? This is the assign code. So this AS1 produces assign. And that assign has some code here now. In case this code is fine, what do we do next? We have seen S10. If we have seen S1, we have seen, sorry, if we have seen assign, then we have seen S1. In case we have seen assign, we have seen S1 now, then we have seen what? Up until this whole production rule. In that case, what we do? We introduce a new, temporary variable, which is begin. So begin equals to, let's say, L naught, since we haven't introduced any levels so far, L naught. Then we have B dot true as the new level. So B will have attribute true, which will be L1. And for false, we will have S dot next. So this S basically will have a next attribute along. And finally, S1 dot next. Now, what is this S1? Sorry, again, this is not S1 dot next, this is S dot next. I'm making the same mistakes again and again. So this is the S dot next. And B dot false is basically pointing to S dot next. And S1 has something which is S1 dot next. That points to begin. Now begin is what? Begin is L naught. So this also points to L naught. If that's the case, how things happens now? So we have S dot code. So this S will have some code attribute, and that will point to this tree address code we will be writing now. So at first we have level begin. So level begin is basically what? L naught, space colon. After that we have B dot code. B dot code is what? B dot code is T naught equals to C less than 10. That's B dot code. Then we have label B dot true. B dot true is basically L1 colon. Then we have S1 dot code. S1 is what? S1 is the child, the right child. So S1 dot code is basically what? Now, I forgot to mention here that S1 dot code points to this assign dot code. So whatever this assign dot code is that is basically s dot code. So this s dot code we append after this b dot true level, which is L1. So S1 dot code is basically T1 equals to C plus 1 and C equals to T1. And then we have generate go to begin. So go to begin, which is basically what? L0. So now what do we do? See, so far we are starting from here. We run this. We go to L1. Again, we go check if like we perform this operation. And finally, we go to L0. So that means we are now looping. So we have this L0. We go below. Again, it says go to L0. However, we are not checking something. We're not able to perform any check operation. Now, where do we check? So this grammar, which has been provided, there is no checking information. So the checking information will look something like this. We should have a checking information here. So if T0 is false, then go to somewhere. Now, where should we go? Before giving that, let's continue. Before then writing, like we need to introduce L2. Now, where do we place L2? Let's continue up until we get to the P statement. So here, P producing what? S. So P producing S means what? We have seen that means S so far, and S will have this next, and this next actually points to what? L2, new level. Now see one thing. We have found the S dot next here. Now B dot false basically points to S dot next. S dot next is what? L2, isn't it? Whatever is placed inside S dot next, that will be placed to B dot false. So B, S dot next is placed sometimes, like sometime later, after sometimes. So we will have now what? L2 here. So that means this B dot false will actually place L2 or point to this L2. Hence, once we generate this P dot code, that means this P attribute, P will have an attribute code that will simply append S dot code. S dot code is so far, what is S dot code? S dot code is basically this, what we have written so far here. We append this with the new level. So after that, we append the new level, which is basically L2. Okay. So when we write here, as I erase that part, when we write this statement here, that means this new statement should be actually imposed here. If T0 is false, go to S dot next. We need to write that S dot next here. Why? Because S dot next will be later imposed L2. Because like see, one thing, like try to see here one thing. When did we place this L1 and when did we place this, like this code, which is the Boolean code? This is basically done in this portion, which is here. At first we have level B begin, which is L0. So this is the L0 portion. So L0 here. Then B dot code, which is basically this T0 portion, which is this one. And after that, we have this B dot true, which is L1. That means over here, we should have that statement if T0 is true, then go to somewhere. But where? We haven't even calculated this S dot next yet. We'll be calculating this S dot next after we have seen this, like this much. After we have seen like this much of production rule or the symmetric rule. This appears at the very end. Hence, we cannot write L2 directly. Rather, we will point to S dot next here. So that when L2 will be created, this S, instead of this S dot next, we will point to that L2. Like, does it make sense? Why? Because if we try to see in the context of the block diagram, you will be able to understand. And this is a phenomenal thing. We have, let's say, describe here B dot code. This is the L0, which is the beginning. We have B dot true. We have B dot false. Now, B dot true is basically L1, which is this portion L1. However, we do not know what is B dot false. We know that this is actually S dot next, whatever S dot next points to, and this is S dot code. But after we have solved the portion of S dot code, we can then only find that whatever comes S2 dot code is basically L2, because we don't know how much is, like, how long is the S dot code. Once we have finished with parsing S dot code, we can then generate L2 or the level 2. Hence, if you simply say S dot next points to this L2, only then we could actually refer that this S dot next will be replaced by this L2. Now, there might be a confusion before I explained this, but now this should be gone. Like, before I explain this, you should be asking, how do I know which level to place? Like, how do I know this is L2, not L1? Like, how do I know? Now, using this production rule and the semantic rule, we know that this is L2. However, when we are solving up until this whiles portion, like up until this patch, we didn't know the last level was basically L2. That's why we pointed to S dot next. But as we go, like as we went further, L2 was generated automatically. Okay. And so this is the lesson, the 3 address code, which is supposed to actually introduce to this portion. Similarly, they like if else conditions. Okay. So for if else condition, I'm giving a homework. I will ask it on the next class, which is basically tomorrow. We will have an online session again on like tomorrow. Like in order to like I'm taking this session so that we can finish the syllabus as soon as possible, so that we can get some extra classes to solve some practice questions. Now, I'm giving a question here, which is if B less than C and C greater than B. I'm trying to give a little bit complex one. Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible? Pardon? Could you be a bit louder? Yeah, obviously the recording will be provided to you, inshallah. Yes, you will be provided with the recording. I'm recording the classes. So you'll be provided with the recording. And one more thing, most probably there will be, like, I'll be announcing this again, but those who are present, there will be a quiz on this Thursday. This Thursday, there will be a quiz, very short quiz, which is basically on the Boolean expression we are doing right now, the Boolean, basically the control flow. So there will be a quiz on this control flow. So quiz on this Thursday. On control flow. And there will be a quiz on the next Thursday as well. So on the last class, there will be a quiz as well, because we don't have any more classes left. So it is a must that we have to have, like, we have to finish these quizzes as soon as possible. And inshallah, these quizzes will be as easy as possible. So if you'll be able to solve the homework I'll be providing now, inshallah, you'll be able to solve it by yourself. So if B is less than C and C is less than A, simply place A equals to B, C equals to B plus A. Else, B equals to A and C equals to B minus A. And that's all from my side. Yeah. This is the question. Sorry, not this is the question you are supposed to solve at home and then provide me on the next class. So those who are present now, I'm expecting you all to be present the next day and show me how far you have done. Okay. Like this is the grammar. The grammar I have used here, which is basically the grammar in the book given as 6.36, and the grammar which includes this if condition or this if statement that is basically given in the next page or the 2 pages later, which is in figure 6.37. There is the introduction of like if condition, like in case of the Boolean expressions, if something happens, then if E1 dot address, for example, there is this B producing E1 relation operation E2. In such cases, relation operation is basically what? This is the relation operation. So in such case, if let's say this less than E2, then go to something, unless go to something somewhere else. Okay. So we'll be again doing that portion. So I'll urge you to actually go through figure 6.37 as well at your home and try to see the book section or like section 6.6 before coming tomorrow's class. So before seeing the next lecture videos, try to go through the like section 6.6. So till then, the lecture is, I think today this much was how far I wanted to cover. Inshallah, the rest will be covered on next class, which is basically tomorrow at 9:15. Okay, then take care. Allah Hafiz. Is there any questions so far, like for today's lecture? If not, then Assalamu alaikum.